The other part of the problem we have is, as humans, we don't understand the spirit realm at all. So that spiritual intimacy side is really vague to us. I can tell you again, as a counselor working for 45 years, I've never had a couple in my office that one of the problems were they were praying together too much. Haven't had it, don't expect to have that be a problem. I've had most of the Christian couples that I've worked with, I'd even dare say all, come into my office saying, we rarely if ever pray together. They may each have their own spiritual walk as believers, but they don't come together to unite together to make that unity spiritually. And that was my caution about getting these groups together, is in that spiritual realm, we can misunderstand what we're feeling. You may have all been around long enough that you've heard about pastors running off with their secretaries or another person in the body. That's because they opened the door to have spiritual intimacy with someone, and they confuse that with physical and emotional intimacy, and the next thing you know, Satan brought them down a tube that God didn't want them going to. Because they didn't understand about setting healthier boundaries, to realize that spiritual intimacy, powerful, wonderful, but we need to be careful not to confuse it with emotional or physical. And we need to not confuse it with the idea that it means we should be in a relationship. Now, how many of you know that dating has changed multiple times through the years? You go back not all that long ago, and there was no such beast. Marriages were arranged by parents. And often for political or economic reasons. Two families would decide the best thing to do is have their children marry so they could carry on the legacy together, and it was all arranged. Back in 1982, I was in Malaysia doing a conference, and I stayed with a Chinese couple. And the gentleman was very well off. And one night while we had a break and we were eating at their house, I asked them how they got to know each other. And they looked at each other and looked at me and said, "You're going to have a hard time with this." And he said he had done his undergraduate work at USC in California. And he said, "I understand your culture," he said, "but we're not from that culture." He was born in Thailand, she was born in Malaysia. Their families made a marriage contract when they were born. They never met each other until the day they married. And he was right. He blew my mind. He then said, "I want you to stay with us the 3 weeks you're going to be in the area. I'll fly you wherever you need to be, but I want you to see that you're not going to find somebody in your country more in love than we are." They weren't in love because they had an ooey-gooey feeling. They were in love because they made a decision to love each other, and they chose to walk in that decision. And as believers, they chose to bring God into that decision. And with it, it developed them as a healthy couple. Reality is, we often sometimes think God has a right and a wrong person out there for us. And the answer is no. Any two people with their hearts surrendered to God can make it work if they're open to learning to communicate with God and to communicate with each other. If we